Howdy, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of Weathering the Market. I'm Dion.
And I'm Kailey Carey.
And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, something that some of you may or may not have heard of, called stratospheric warming. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and let Kailey take over and give us the details on that.
Okay, so first off, what exactly is stratospheric warming? Now, the lovely stratosphere, located, 15 to 50 kilometers, i.e. 30 miles-ish above the Earth's surface, is encapsulated by the polar jet. And a lot of times you hear this referred to as the polar vortex. Dion, do you know how fast those winds are going, just by any chance?
By any chance, no. And I'm even a meteorologist, and off the top of my head, that's not something that I know.
Okay, roughly 125 miles per hour. So for that wind speed to be broken up, what we're really looking at are large-scale atmospheric waves caused by temperature differences between land and ocean, and then those waves eventually get strong enough to disrupt the polar jet. And then when that happens, think of the Earth as wearing a really tight belt up at the top around the Arctic, and then all of a sudden that belt loosens, and all of that mass of cold air that's spinning around the Arctic has the potential to kind of dip down further south. And then what would you think would happen once that cold air starts going further south? Where is it going to go, you think?
Well, obviously we start getting those colder temperatures spreading down into the mid-latitudes, and we start seeing our cold snaps, i.e. our polar vortexes.
Yes, exactly. So it kind of splits into two, and typically we see one over Europe and one over North America. And just recently, January 4th is when actually stratospheric warming was detected by scientists. It went from negative 92 degrees Fahrenheit to roughly 8 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a jump of 100 degrees. That's pretty wild.
That's very crazy. Very crazy.
Yes, and a lot of times when we see that temperature increase, surface pressure increases, atmospheric temperatures increase in the polar atmosphere, and this all in turn affects the Arctic oscillation. More on that later. Let's circle back though to that cold air really starting to spill from the North Pole. Now we started seeing that cold in China roughly about 2 weeks ago, would you say?
Yeah, something like that, about two and a half weeks ago.
Yes, right around there. And when we saw that, a lot of times that implies that cold is, we're going to start to see it in North America as well. Now, we are still in the waiting game. And have you seen the model start to pick up on this cold at all?
Just a little bit. It looks like, well, it depends on which one we're referring to. But I think we had the Euro was hinting towards something as soon as the 25th, I think. And then the GFS potentially a little bit later.
Yeah, the GFS really is having a hard time picking up on this. I feel like last week everyone was getting excited if you like the cold and you like the winter storms, because the models were kind of agreeing that we were going to be seeing this stratospheric warming event, that cold air really starting to cool down, but then all of a sudden, poof, it's kind of out of the forecast. So, but the Euro is still kind of holding strong, that we could be seeing these systems come through and run to run, and that we could even be seeing another cold snap January 30th through February 1st. So what this implies, though, towards the energy markets is that we're going to be seeing natural gas increase, energy consumption increase, because it is anticipated to be so cold. But just, with an air of caution, the GFS is really not picking up on this at all. So moving forward, it's just kind of weighing the two. Are we going to go with the Euro? Are we going to go with the GFS? Are we going to go with the blend of the two, which I think is a happy medium?
Yeah, for sure. I think with this much dissent between the two models, really you kind of want to split the difference between the two, I think would be the more logical approach for right now. And then probably as we get closer and closer to the actual event, what we'll start to do is kind of hone in on a much more narrow time frame when to expect this potential cold snap.
And something to talk about, this is one of the strongest stratospheric warming events that we've seen since 2009, 2010. But why that is different is because that was an El Nino year. So everything just kind of behaves differently. We're currently in a La Nina, and it's a little bit of a different La Nina because we don't have as much cold water in the Pacific as we're used to seeing. So everything is behaving slightly different. I think that's kind of coming into play with the models right here, because the models are really underplaying the equatorial convection, meaning that we're starting to see those waves interact with that warmer air, meaning that there's more energy going into these storms. There's more moisture going into these storms, which that has the potential to create more precipitation as they do come across land. And once again, it goes hand in hand with which model is going to, hone in on what's really happening. And as of now, It looks like the event is kind of being somewhat played down. But honestly, only time will really tell.
Yeah, that's correct. So, over the next coming over the next coming week or so, we should be able to see more and more data come in and kind of get a better grasp for what to expect with this particular event, and get a much more solid idea as to when this was supposed to happen. So, it could be as early as next Monday, could be a little bit beyond that. So with at least with that difference in between the two, it's something to look for, to be mindful of between the model variations.
I think really the best way of going about this is a quote from Dumb and Dumber when you're saying, so you're saying there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance. So I really feel like that's where we are with this one. Thanks for tuning in on this week's episode, guys. Hope we can catch you next week.